Right, in this tutorial I'm going to go through the basics of the script. So we'll open the game window. Now we need to, most of the script is, well, all of the script is contained in the data file. For the moment I'll go into the configuration settings, just show you a bit on that. Most of it you don't need to worry about at all. The only things you need to do anything about are the three things at the bottom. Cool determines whether your CPU is put in cool setting. This allows it to take up less memory. If it's on 1, if it's set at 0, then it will use more memory. Logs everything that the game does, and dev sets dev mode on or off. 1 is on, 0 is off. When you release a game, you can get rid of the last two. They're not needed. So we'll go into the data folder, and we've got a few other folders in here: fonts, map, music, samples, scripts, which we'll come back to, tiles. All the tiles go in that folder, and we've got a Dizzy setup information. This is mainly used for if you press F1 when you're in the game window, it shows you who's made it, what it's called, etc. So we'll change that to, let's see, tutorial game, and we'll change the name of the author. And if you wish to, you can change the website address as well. That shows which DizzyAGE version the game has been made in. So we'll save that, and we'll go into the scripts. Now, the only two scripts you actually need to worry about are game and game def. The whole thing looks very complicated, but it really isn't, because these are the only two you'll really need to start with. And you can create quite a decent little game by just changing stuff in these. Now, if we go into game def, you've got loads of code and you'll be like, oh my god, what do I do here? The fact is, this just sets some simple defines in the game. We'll start at the top. Any line that has a double forward backslash on it, anything after that is classed as notes for your own use. It's not part of the code. Anything after that on the line. So likes of here, we've got a define. That basically defines the max credits variable as 3. And then you've got a double forward backslash, meaning that everything else on that line is notes, and it doesn't get counted in the code. So we've got game author is currently defined as Alex, so we'll change that. Oops. And we'll change the title of the game as well to Now that's the website that the game uses once you've finished the game. It redirects you to, so you can change that. Now this game ID, that's only used in save games. Basically what it means is that if you release another version of your game, found a few bugs, whatever, and the game shouldn't be played, the save games from previous versions shouldn't be able to be played with the new version, you can change that to something else, say that, and it won't let previous save games load. Now, some of these defines are quite easily explained. That's the maximum amount of lives you're allowed to have in the game. That's the maximum amount of coins the game will have. Now you can set more coins than that in the game. However, if you set 10 coins and you keep that to 4, then after the 4th coin it'll say you have found all the coins, even though you haven't, and even though you can go on to collect more. Max inventory, that's the maximum amount of items you can hold in the inventory. And the rest of those aren't really of any use at the moment. Now, player main menu X and Y set to where the player is set to when you first load the game, and player begin X and begin Y set where the player starts once you start the game. Now, in this case, the map is rather a bit smaller than that, so we need to change those, otherwise it'll set him off the edge of the map. So if we go back to the editor, if we put the axis on, we'll set him about there, which is 120 by 56 if you look on the X and Y position at the bottom. 120 by 56. So we'll go back to the script. 120x by 56, and we'll also change the main menu as well for the moment. Right, that's all that we really need to say about that. Those are simply defines. That's quite a simple file. So now if we go back to the game, if we start the game, you'll see he starts in the middle of the room. Simple as that. And while we're in the game, we might as well show you that the coin that we placed earlier works, and you can see the room name there. So that's quite easy. Get rid of that for the moment, and we'll go back to the scripts for another little basic explanation. If we go in the game file, this sets virtually everything that you'll use in the game. Now you can see this top bit here is just a load of text explaining stuff, explains what functions are. Don't worry about that for the moment. What we'll do for the moment is we'll explain the functions. Now if you've ever used C++ or PHP, then you'll find these very easy to learn. If you haven't, don't worry, it is pretty easy to learn anyway. Basically this function here defines a new function. That is the function name, and you always have a couple of brackets, open bracket and close bracket afterwards. These little brackets here open the function and close the function, and then anything inside the function is put in between those brackets. All that's in this function is a little bit of code there. The only thing to say about this is that you need a semicolon at the end of every single line except for if statements and for when you're starting a function. Everything that's contained within a function, apart from if statements, must have that semicolon. Let's see, if we take that off, you'll see when we start the game we'll have a problem. There we go. An error, do you want to exit? Now that's basically saying it's expecting a semicolon in file folder data scripts game.gs file line 42. So we'll exit the game, go back into the game folder. Now I prefer to edit these in Notepad. You might find that you prefer a different editor, but I prefer Notepad. If we call it the go-to shortcut, go to line 42, you'll find line 42 is the one after we did it, but that's because it's expecting a semicolon, so it's moved to the next line. It's found that instead of a semicolon, so has thrown up an error. So all we need to do is put the semicolon back onto it, and it'll work fine again. That is pretty much the basics of the scripts.